Trump has repeatedly threatened to prosecute Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Liz Cheney, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, General Mark Milley, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, New York AG Letitia James, and that's just some of the people he has talked about. Do you support him using the Justice Department to go after the people who disagree?
He didn't do it his first term. What I support is stopping.
Right, but this is a second term.
What I support is stopping this lawfare, stopping this political targeting, political cases. We all know the Fonnie Willis case, the Alvin Bragg case, and the Jack Smith cases were all driven by politics. The American people understood it. That's why they had this overwhelming win. One of the reasons this overwhelming win for President Trump. So I'm against the retribution. I'm against the Justice Department saying if you're a mom and dad showing up at a school board meeting, we're going to investigate you. I'm against the FBI putting together a memorandum at the Richmond field office which said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist.
So I just want to...
We want all that to stop.
I just want to put a button on this. So what you are saying is that all of the times that President Trump said so many things about people that he promised that he would go after them and prosecute them, you were going to encourage him not to do that?
Well, all I know is what he didn't do. That.
I know, but we're talking about
lock her up. You know, he's talking about his opponent in 2016, Secretary Clinton, talked about lock her up. He didn't do that. He didn't go. But the Democrats went after him.
I know, but I'm talking about
Donald
Trump's second term.
I mean,
going forward.
I
Since then, he has said many times.
I don't think any of that's going to happen because we're the party who's against political prosecution. We're the party who's against going after your opponents using lawfare. In fact, I think this is one of the issues that the
So it was just a campaign rhetoric? It wasn't real?
Well, I think he's pointing out what's going on. The retribution, actually, Liz Cheney on January 6th went after President Trump, said things that weren't accurate, I think, in their report. The other individuals he's talked about have been part of this retribution going after President Trump. Never forget, it started clear back before he was in office. They spied on his campaign in 2016.
But I am not talking about...
for 8 years, they've been going after President Trump.
He won.
He sure did. He won big.
He won big. So my question, and what people want to know, is what he is going to do looking
I think
forward.
He's going to do.
Just for example, 2 days ago, he called for investigations into anyone spreading rumors.
I think he's going to secure the border. I think he's going to get rid of this crazy inflation that's hurting middle class and working class families, hurting our economy. I think he's going to get back to common sense energy policy. I think he's going to focus on protecting the First Amendment. I mean, think about this. Did you ever think you would see Donald Trump, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard on the same team? They were on the same team because of the attack on free speech, the attack on the First Amendment. He's going to focus on those things that the American people elected him to do.
Okay.
All right, guys. So we got to talk about the mainstream liberal media. Boo, why didn't it cry about the second Trump administration and what President Trump may choose to do, right? They are afraid that Trump is going to try to seek justice. Now, they're calling justice revenge, retribution, political persecution, but no. In my eyes, it is justice because you have these individuals that have weaponized the government to go after Trump, like, for example, Jack Smith, people like Letitia James, okay? A lot of individuals, a lot of deranged Democrats have abused their offices, abused their power to go after Trump, and I think that justice should be served, okay? I would not mind at all if the Trump Justice Department decided that, hey, maybe these political persecutions of the former president should be investigated, and if charges are appropriate, then, hey, we got to do what we got to do. That is exactly what should happen. Now, do I think that is what will happen? I don't know, okay? I'm not sure if Trump is going to be as concerned with trying to bring justice to the people that went after him rather than helping the American people, right? I'm hoping that he's more concerned about taking care of what is actually affecting the American people the most right now, which is the economy and illegal immigration, right? So I would not be surprised if these things do not happen under his administration, although I would love to see Letitia James behind bars, right? There's nobody I would love to see more behind bars in prison than Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, okay? Because this woman has weaponized her office in the most obvious way possible to try to bankrupt Trump. I mean, that fraud case is probably going to get overruled. I mean, she got absolutely destroyed by the judges during the appeals process. And despite all this, she's still threatening President-elect Trump with more lawfare, despite him not even being in office yet.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump. in his second term. Because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
We've been warning people on the show, Mike, this isn't the same Trump administration. Stop messing around. Don't rig elections. Don't illegally vote. Don't try the funny business, because we know the team this time and they are not effing around.
And it's stuff like that I don't think Democrats should be allowed to get away with, right? If you allow them to get away with it, they will continue to do it because they believe that they will not face consequences. Although, I guess you could argue that them doing that backfired on them, and that's part of the reason why Trump won. So, it's neither here nor there. All I know is that the mainstream liberal media is trying to create as much fear as possible around the next Trump administration and what they're going to do. And when they're not talking about the possibility of political persecutions, they're talking about mass deportations, as if mass deportations is something that the American people should be fearful of. Okay, the American people actually support mass deportations. And again, this is just not a reality that outlets like CNN seem to be willing to accept, that the American people want what the Trump administration is planning to do. Take a look.
Who's targeted first?
Well, he's already said that. People who have migrants here who committed crimes, criminal.
How are you going to find them?
The ones who committed crimes, you go after them. We've had.
But I mean,
Miss
who actually?
Whose daughter was killed. We've had Rachel Morin's family who came in and talked.
How are they going to be found? Or is it going to be the military? Is it going to be local law enforcement?
1.3 million migrants have already had their asylum case adjudicated, been in front of a judge, and the judge says, you do not qualify under the law. We're the party of the rule of law. Those 1.3 million, they don't qualify under the law.
My question is how you get them.
They're supposed to be removed. They have a removal order. You start there. You start with the criminals. You start with the people who've already been.
I want to understand. So people say, let's say one of these people is living in their apartment complex. Is the military going to come in? Is it the local law enforcement? How is it actually physically going to work?
The Trump administration, the Department of Homeland Security will work with local law enforcement, and we'll focus on the people who 1.3 million already been in front of a judge and said, no, you're not entitled to stay here. You have to be removed. There's an order there, a court of law. They've had their due process. They've had the whole process play out.
So let's move on beyond that population, non-criminals, people who are in the country who are not legal citizens, those who have not committed crimes.
We're starting with the criminal element.
I know, but after that.
1.3. Well, we'll start there and then go from that point. But again, this was clear in the election. This was one of the top issues. President Trump had the greatest political comeback in history, won 30 states, won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won an electoral college landslide. This was one of the big issues. He's told the American people he's going to do it.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm asking how it's going to work.
This is how I believe it'll start. And remember, they told him in his first term, he couldn't do certain things. He got them done. I'm convinced he'll get it done, but I also am convinced he's going to start with the criminal element and the 1.3 million who've already been in front of a judge, and the judge says you have to be removed.
Ultimately, will it be 15 to 20 million as he promised on the campaign trail?
Well, we will see. What I know is if you send that message, I think that is so good for securing our border, which the country wants. Just the opposite of what the Biden administration did. Biden and Harris administration came in on day one and said, no more building the wall, no more remain in Mexico, and when you get here, you will not be detained, you will be released, and 10 million came in. So the country rightly said, let's put a stop to that, and the place to begin is with the criminal element and the 1.3 million who've already been adjudicated.
So the last question I want to ask about this are the...
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Now, I've never seen Data Bash, or anybody on CNN really, ask for specific details on how Democrats are going to enact their cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs policies, right? I've never seen them ask, well, how are you going to pay for it? Exactly how are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? I just hear them essentially ask a question and then just let Democrats talk and say whatever they want to say with no pushback whatsoever, which clearly is not what Dana Bash is doing here with Jim Jordan, right? With Jim Jordan, it seems she is hell-bent on trying to make him explain every little detail about the plan to mass deport illegal immigrants, even though he's explaining to her what the plan is, right? Essentially, you already have people who have been ordered to be deported, okay? So we can start there first. Okay, get those people out of here. And then you have criminals who have been found to have committed crimes in this country. Boom. And then you got those people. We get those people out. Also on top of that, if we stop funding the migrant crisis in the sense that we stop allowing the illegals to use our social safety nets, a lot of the illegals will deport themselves, right? If we stop giving them work permits, if we stop allowing them to live here off taxpayer dime, then they will leave.
Now, obviously, Trump's promised, and you've talked a lot about this, a mass deportation of undocumented immigrants. First of all, do you really think that we're going to see him round up and deport upwards of 11, sometimes he's put the number as high as 20 million people out of the United States? Is that really going to happen?
Donald Trump's campaign promise was the largest mass deportation in American history.
Okay.
And he's going to keep that promise. And I'll tell you, let's just start very pragmatically here. I think most Americans agree with this. You take the number of people who have entered the country just in the last 18 to 24 months. That's millions of undocumented immigrants, illegal migrants, who have really no place in this country. Anybody who's committed a crime. Automatically, that already is the largest mass deportation in American history. Now take that to the next level. Not an iota, not a cent of government spending should go to subsidize this, not to sanctuary cities, not to federal aid to people who are in this country illegally. And we're going to see a large number, by the millions, of self-deportations as well. And so these are pragmatic places to start that would give us, yes, the largest mass deportation in American history.
But fall far short of 11 million or more.
We're going to go step by step aggressively. Donald Trump's going to stay true to his campaign pledge, but in a way that respects the dignity of the Americans who are already here.
Okay,
and I do think it's offensive to use, when we have $34 trillion of national debt, government funds to subsidize this type of illegal migration. That's half the problem. And if any illegal migrant is no longer a customer of the welfare state, you're going to see self-deportations combined with deportations of those who enter.
Let me ask you,
Boom. It's really that simple, right? It's really that simple. But the mainstream liberal media, again, now all of a sudden they want to know details about how Republicans are going to get things done, details that they never want to know about how Democrats are going to fulfill their promises. Again, it's amazing how that works, okay? But a lot of these people in the media, they're just doing what they're paid to do, which is to be propagandists for Democrats and to be antagonistic towards Republicans. So they're trying to get gotchas. They're not actually really trying to have a real conversation. They just want gotchas, right? They want to get Republicans on record saying something that then they can turn around and then repeat and then fearmonger about, right? And this is essentially what Dana Bash tried to do with Jim Jordan when it comes to asking him about the 2020 election versus the 2024 election, because we all know that a lot of Republicans believe that there were problems with the 2020 election. And in 2024, Trump won the election in a landslide, and there are people who still believe there are issues with our elections. But at the same time, hey, Trump won, so hey, we're going to move forward. And Dana Bash tried to get a gotcha out of this, and Jim Jordan simply did not let her do it. Take a look.
Okay, let's talk about the election, because in the run-up to the election, even on election night itself, Donald Trump baselessly accused Democrats of cheating. As soon as the results started to come in and showed them going his way, he stopped. Silence. Nothing about that. I haven't seen you or your colleagues claiming any election irregularities, no rampant voting fraud this time. It seems to me that Republicans claim voting fraud and election integrity when you lose and not when you win.
No, I mean, again, as I said before, this election, I think, was the greatest political comeback we've ever seen. I mean, he did something that even Teddy Roosevelt couldn't do, for goodness sake. And the country...
But you think it was a free and fair election?
No. This election, you just interviewed the Latino, I think, restaurant owner or a restaurant worker, and he said he was tired of all the woke stuff. This election was real simple. You had back-to-back administrations. We got something we very seldom get in American history, American politics. Back-to-back administrations now running for the top job, and people could do a direct comparison. And they said, we like what we had under President Trump versus...
But last time around,
we like the safe streets versus the record
last
crime.
time around, your leader claimed that there were problems with
secure
fraud.
border versus the open border.
Right, those are policies.
That's what this election was about.
That's totally fair. But last time around, it wasn't so much about the policy differences or the personality differences. There were false claims about election fraud when Donald Trump lost. This time, Donald Trump won, and you think the election was free and fair. Do you see there's a little bit of a...
No, I think the Democrats got to ask, why did we go from getting 81 million to getting 70 million? What happened to those 10 million people? Maybe they needed, maybe it's not smart to run an election where you have no vision, no record to run on.
Do you believe that the
2024 names?
Do you believe that the 2024 election was free and fair?
I do.
And why was it different from 2020 when he lost? Is that the only difference?
No, there were concerns about 2020 with all the mail-in voting that happened. You know, when Pennsylvania had like 2-point-something million mail-in ballots come in without any signature verification, which was required under Pennsylvania statute. So there were all kinds of concerns with how the 2020 election was carried out. But
there was absolutely
the biggest question Democrats need to be asking, what happened to the 10 million voters that Joe Biden got that didn't come out for Kamala Harris? A bunch of them, President Trump's numbers were right up where they were in 2020, but the Democrats were much lower. I think it's because they had no vision, no record to run on, and they just wanted to call everyone names. Turns out when you tell people, oh, you're fascist, racist, deplorable, garbage, they don't like that. And then when you use lawfare to go after their candidate, they don't like that either.
Well,
that's why they came out so. On top of the economy, on top of the price of gas, on top of the inflation, that's why they voted for President Trump.
We're out of time. I just want to say, for the record, that there was no evidence of widespread fraud in 2020. It went through many, many different court cases. And I do think the name calling,
that's what I was concerned about.
The name calling was very strong on the Republican side of the aisle from the former president, and you know that. So thank you for being here. Appreciate you going through all of this.
You bet.
Wow. Some things just never change. Okay? And as soon as you call out these propagandists for being what they are, Democrat Party propagandists, they will boo-hoo, whine, and cry and say, oh, no, I'm a journalist, not a Democrat Party propagandist. I'm not a liberal. I'm a journalist, right? It's like, no. You are a propagandist, okay? Dana Bash is a propagandist. I just think that, again, it's funny how she tries to get this gotcha. What's the point of asking this question? Seriously, what's the point? If Democrats are so hell-bent on saying that election fraud never happens, okay, and that all the elections are free and fair and that you can't question it, what is the point of now asking this question after Trump won the 2024 election? Well, the point is that these people want to try to humiliate Republicans, but Jim Jordan was not going to allow her to do that because, again, there is nuance to it, okay? You can say that, hey, there was problems in 2020 that we didn't see in 2024, and the specific problem here is the fact that, hey, it seems as if a lot of Democrats didn't vote for Kamala Harris this time around like they voted for Joe Biden. Now, why is that, right? Why is it that Kamala Harris lost those 10 to 15 million votes? Where did those votes go, right? I think that's a great question that the mainstream liberal media should spend time investigating instead of trying to get gotchas against Republicans, right? Maybe Dana Bash should be asking Democrats, yeah. what happened to those 10 to 15 million votes? That sure is a whole lot of votes to lose in one election cycle. 10 to 15 million? That's pretty embarrassing, right? Either that or maybe we need to look deeper into 2020 and to figure out how the hell did Democrats get all those votes in the first place, right? Right? Again, that's what a journalist would do, okay? But instead, because Dana Bash is not a journalist, she's a propagandist, she's more concerned about trying to get it a gotcha. Oh, well, you're a hypocrite. And it's like, no. This is not about hypocrisy. This is about the fact that, yeah, there are legitimate questions about how the hell did Biden get all those votes, right? And now all of a sudden, fast forward 4 years, Kamala lost all those votes. There could be a nefarious explanation to it. But the other explanation is pretty humiliating for the Democrats, which I think is a more pertinent question to ask than about Republicans and their claims about the 2020 election versus 2024, okay? And so, again, I just find these interviews here for the mainstream liberal media, they're doing the exact same thing that they were doing before the election. They're going to continue to do it, and that's fine, right? Because let's be honest, Republicans facing a lot of this heat from the media, it actually made the Republicans stronger going into the 2024 election, right? One of the reasons why Kamala Harris was so weak is because she didn't face any of these questions. She never faced these tough questions from Dana Bash. Dana Bash never pushed back against Kamala Harris the way that she pushed back against Jim Jordan. So when it comes to doing interviews and stuff like that, Kamala Harris was very rusty. She didn't know how to articulate herself. She just wasn't ready. But when it came to J.D. Vance doing interviews and stuff like that with the media, he was a bulldog, right? He was ready because the media is always adversarial towards Republicans. So Republicans are just better at dealing with the media than Democrats are, because Democrats never face this type of pushback, right? So, I mean, I guess it's neither here nor there, right? So this is what they're going to continue to do for the next 4 years. And, hey, at the end of the day, they can boo-hoo, whine, and cry about what Republicans want to do in the agenda. But the American people have spoken, and they say, hey, we agree with the America First agenda, and they want President Trump to execute. And that's exactly what I hope Republicans do. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.